Hello everybody and welcome to this pilot episode of On My Watchlist, the series all about photography on YouTube. Today I'm joined by my co-host Julian Baird and we're going to be talking about some of the videos that we think should be on your watch list. Hello Julian.
Good morning Chris, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You're coming live from our Exeter studios, aren't you?
That's right, the Exeter-based studios, yes. I've just come out of hair and makeup. Unfortunately, haircuts are a bit off at the moment. I see you're getting some long hair as well.
My hair is growing, but I have allowed Helen to have a little chop at it.
No, that's something I will not let my wife do. No, it's just going to have to grow out and grow bushy, I'm afraid. So looking a bit more rustic than normal.
Yeah, so how have you been coping with lockdown other than the haircuts?
Well, not too bad, I guess. I mean, it's frustrating not being able to obviously get out with the camera. My macro lens that I promised myself I was going to buy this year, I did get, and it's arrived. But I'm feeling slightly uninspired by taking pictures of flowers inside the house. So I'm really looking forward to getting out. Good. What about yourself?
Well, you know, for me it's been very difficult. Obviously, my business has been severely hit by it. I have a number of cancellations. I've had to postpone a lot of workshops, cancel a lot of one-to-ones. But there was some good news in the press yesterday. Did you see that?
Well, they're talking about easing some of the restrictions, aren't they?
So that's positive, I think, for those of us that do a lot of filming outdoors. I don't know about you, but I mean, I haven't been able to do any filming other than really in my office for the last 6 weeks. So hopefully the lifting of the restrictions, which fingers crossed are going to come next week, means that we can get back out into the field and do videos of us actually out taking photos.
Yeah, but I guess we've all been watching a bit more YouTube, which is I guess the point of this show. So Chris, why don't you tell us about what is this show? What's it all about?
That's the first thing. It's not a lockdown thing, is it? I mean, this is something that we've been talking about doing for a really long time, and I think for me, I've always wanted to do. We've collaborated on a number of occasions, and the difficulty that you and I have is that obviously we're at different ends of the country. So I'm based up in the northwest of the country, right on the border with Scotland, and you're right down at the southwest, aren't you?
I am, yeah, down in sunny Devon.
And I think it's fairly. It's we've said it before, but if we lived closer together, we would be out shooting a lot more together and doing stuff together, wouldn't we?
Oh, certainly would. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, to the point where perhaps it might test our marriages.
Test our marriages and test our audiences as well.
Well, there's that as well. I'm not him again. And we've done a few sort of YouTube collaborations, and this is something we've been talking about doing for a long time. And it's sort of come at a time for me where I haven't been watching as much YouTube as I would have liked. And I know that you're very good at it. You watch quite a lot of YouTube, and you put me onto some really good stuff over the years, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of use it a bit like the radio, so I just kind of have it on in the background. So I do go through quite a lot of content, but it's not just photography videos that I watch. I watch a lot of other creative type videos as well. So I get a lot of inspiration both from a photography and I guess in terms of the art form and in video production and stuff like that. So I'm always sort of soaking up knowledge. So hopefully this show is going to be a great way for me for us to share, I guess, some of those videos that we've seen that both inspired our photography and our general creative and videography pursuits. Yeah,
that's right, absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm hoping as well. And this is just a pilot episode.
Yep.
This is something that we're trying out. And the basic format for the series going forward, we want to have guests on, don't we?
Yeah, so we're hoping it's going to be hopefully me and you on a regular basis. We're going to be in each show, and then we're going to invite a guest along to talk about a video that's maybe perhaps caught their attention and inspired them. And maybe they might not even be necessarily a person that's actually on YouTube themselves. It's not necessarily a content creator. Could be just a photographer or a videographer, just someone that can add a bit of value to the conversation. So it's not just going to be limited to people that have got a YouTube channel that we're hopefully going to have on as guest hosts.
Yeah, and the conversation bit's important there, isn't it? This is just going to be a conversation between you and I for this episode and hopefully when we have guests on in the future.
Yeah, and we're going to try and make it a bit interactive as well. So hopefully we'll start we'll share out what videos we are going to be talking about. So we'll maybe try and get some questions in from you guys, the viewers, and also get your feedback in the comments section as well.
And that's right. And if there's any videos that you're watching in particular that you think that Julian and I should be checking out, then you should also let us know about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So I think, shall we make a start? And I think, Chris, you're first up with your video. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, so the first video that I've chosen is called Lockdown in Snowdonia Episode 1, and it's by a photographer called Nick Livesey. Now, if you don't know Nick is a professional photographer and a mountain guide based in Snowdonia, and he's a bit of a hero of mine, for want of a better word. I find Nick incredibly inspiring, and I love his story about how he's arrived where he is. There's very similarities between Nick's story and mine. We come from very, very different backgrounds, but we both ultimately ended up moving to the area that inspires us and inspires our photography. And so he's not a regular YouTuber, is he?
No, he doesn't produce a lot of content. I mean, the video that caught my eye was that one that you just mentioned. It's his little backstory. It's only a sort of 5-minute video, but it's told with such humour. It's really well produced. I think he's had someone film it for him, and that's what caught my attention. You just think that's the kind of guy I can relate to. So he's very straight down the middle. You know, he doesn't have sort of many airs and graces. So he's a proper genuine person, I think, is the best way to describe it. And that comes through in the video content that he does do. Limited that it is, when you do it, when you do see it, you do get a lot of value from it.
So the video I think you're talking about was My Mountain Healing, which he did in collaboration with another production company.
Yeah,
that's not one he produced himself. It is. If you haven't seen it, it is absolutely brilliant. Nick's story is incredibly inspiring, and the video is excellently put together. And I think it kind of shows the difference between, what you and I put together, and what a professional video people are capable of doing. It's incredibly well put together.
But at the end of the day,
the most important
story,
is
isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly that. Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. At the end of the day, it's all about Nick's story and about his personality. And you know Nick, don't you? You've met Nick.
I've met Nick. I wouldn't go as far as saying I maybe know Nick.
You've met him.
You've
done a video with him.
I've met Nick, and I saw that video of his at Mountain Hill, and we're talking about one of his other videos, but I saw that and I thought there's a genuine person I could spend some time with, and he was doing a book on the Snowdonia Mountains, one of the photo view books, and I reached out to him and said, look, do you fancy doing a little piece together on camera about your book? So he said yes, and I went to Snowdonia. We spent a day in the hills, and it was an absolutely fantastic time. And Nick is, like I say, I use that word again, genuine people, but he's got a real passion for what he loves, and this comes through in his video as well. This one that we're talking about, this lockdown video, and the second part as well, which is now out. But he doesn't just and he goes out there and he wants to understand where he is. Not just go out there and walk the hills and look at the big views and talk about the mountains. He likes to understand the flora, the fauna, the history, and he's learning Welsh as well. So he really has kind of enveloped himself into the local culture. He's
quite a well-known character in that particular area, isn't he?
Yeah. So he works at the one of the local cafes, and he's got a bit of a reputation for having a short customer service. I think he doesn't suffer fools gladly. So yeah, but he is genuine. What you see is what you get. So I mean, this lockdown video. Obviously, we're all in lockdown. So what is it that kind of caught your attention in this particular video that made you want to talk about it?
I think that it's the way that Nick put it together. Really, I think what he did was essentially he went out and he filmed. The technical term, the B-roll, which is a load of kind of supplementary footage, and he's not talking directly to the camera. And then he overlaid that with some voiceover. And he's really just doing what he does best, which is sharing his own personal thoughts and his own personal feelings. It's not a video about the technicalities of photography, about apertures and f-stops and all that kind of stuff. It's not a camera review. It's just a very inspirational guy, a very inspirational photographer talking about his personal experience of lockdown. And Nick I'm going to say Nick's in a very fortunate position, but that's not the case. That's not really what I mean. Nick's put himself in a position where if this sort of thing happens, he's still able to get out. He lives in the Snowdonian Hills, and he can get out and walk for a kilometre and get to some fantastic viewpoints. And I know that in order to get to that position, you have to make a huge amount of sacrifice. He has to work in a cafe, and doing this sort of things that you need to get by. Neither, and I know from personal experience, you have to make sort of financial sacrifices to get yourself into that sort of position. So Nick is in this unique position purely through his own sacrifices, and I found it so inspiring to see him be able to walk out of his back door and go and take advantage of that in this really difficult time, and that was really important. Yeah. The other thing that I think really caught my attention, and we talked earlier about how my business has been very badly affected by this, but I've still enjoyed lockdown to a certain extent, and lockdown has had a profound impact on me as a photographer and my approach, just in the 6 weeks that we've been doing it. And Nick talks about how much he's been enjoying it as well.
Yeah, he's very articulate the way he talks about his experiences and the environment. Have you seen part 2 of his lockdown video?
No, it is on my watch list.
Well, easy to watch it.
So I will be checking that out, and I'm probably watching that today.
Yeah,
at some point.
Like I said, I think I said earlier, he talks a lot about the flora and fauna in this one, and he's got a book, and he's investigating what all the different things are in the landscape, and it really got me to thinking that I just go out and I like going out. Say I love Dartmoor, and I go out there and I take pictures. But how well do I actually know Dartmoor? I mean, could I identify anything that is actually on Dartmoor that isn't a rock or a hawthorn tree? But it's true though, I claim to love that environment, but yet I don't actually really know it. So I think part 2 got me really thinking as well that I think understanding the environment will help you take better photographs of it as well.
Yeah, I think if you have that, if you have the relationship with your subject that Nick has with the mountains, I think it only helps you to take better photographs. And that was actually the subject of his book, wasn't it? Wasn't his book called Photographing Snowdonia?
It was Photographing the Snowdonia Mountains. Yeah, it's one of the photo view guidebooks. So it's slightly different format from the other ones. It was walk based. So I think you had, I can't remember how many walks it was, and you go on the walks and you do various trails and capture a number of peaks, and they have a number of different viewpoints. And it was quite a more broad ranging kind of topic rather than just turn up to this location and these are the shots that you get.
I have a copy. I bought a copy as soon as it came out, just because Nick has been such a big inspiration to me. And Snowdonia is not somewhere that I've been, and it's not somewhere I know at all. And so while we're talking about inspirational photographers and inspirational videos, do you want to talk a little bit about your choice for this video? Yeah,
so I want to talk about a video by a chap called Murray. His channel's called Scotland's Mountains, and you'll never guess what the topic of his videos generally is. But yeah, I've been watching Murray's channel for quite some time now. But his latest video, like many of his videos, has kind of always. It kind of brings me joy in one sense and makes me a little bit sad in another, because I really like the joy aspect comes from him being in the Scottish mountains, and he goes on these adventures and these walks and stuff like that. And the sad bit is it makes me a little bit homesick. I grew up in Scotland, I grew up in the Highlands, and I probably didn't spend enough of my time in the outdoors and in the mountains when I was younger, though I did do some a bit of hill walking in later life. But now that I live in Devon, which is kind of okay, you've got Dartmoor, but essentially it's flat. There's no mountains. So every time I see one of Murray's videos, I get really excited about seeing it. I get excited and think, I'm going to go back to Scotland. But the other hand, I go, oh, he's so lucky to have that. But his most recent video, the most recent video in the top of the scope of this conversation was his one of his last wild camps. Now, when he filmed it, he didn't know it was going to be his last wild camp. I think lockdown came in. I mean, like me, I had quite a few videos already prepped up well before lockdown, so that's why they're still coming out, and that's why Murray's still got his coming out. So this was effectively, retrospectively, I guess, title called The Last Wild Camp. And it's a typical Murray adventure. He's gone up to Glen Cove this time, and he's gone up to the mountain that's just opposite Buccellata's Moor, the big triangular pointy one that everyone photographs. I think the hill's called Benacrusti. I always get the pronunciations wrong. And he's gone up there and he's done a bit of wild camping, and he's just been kind of sharing his experience. What did you think of it?
Well, this video encapsulates everything that I want this series to be about, because I've never watched one of Murray's videos before. I wasn't aware of his
Shame on
videos.
you, Chris.
Shame on me. And like there's a lot of YouTubers that I haven't watched, and it was a real eye opener for me. And I think as a video producer and as a photographer myself, the first thing that I spotted in Murray's videos is just I need to up my game, because I thought the production quality on it was absolutely superb and the photography was absolutely fantastic. This is a landscape that we photographers are very much used to seeing, but what Murray was doing was a lot of kind of astro nighttime photography, and that I think is presenting the mountains in that area in a way that I've never seen them before, and I found that incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, and I think the video production techniques that he uses really, and we all like to tell a story, and it's almost a cliche to say, I want to tell a story, but he does it really well, and he does it without being flashy either. He doesn't have any big bang epic music or fancy shots. He just does really simple but clever shots. I mean, he's using a lot of, like even the old cliched making a coffee in the morning scene, but somehow he managed to take that very cliche sequence and turn it into something unique, but it was also relevant to the story. So you've got this really nice shot of he's got his jet boil or whatever it is, and then he's using a nice shallow depth of field, and in the background you've got Buccellata's Moor in the back. And it's a really cinematic shot, but it helps you feel like you're there. And it's the same with the shots inside the tent, and you can see the frost developing. It looks cold, it feels cold. So just by using good cinematic techniques, it's really enhanced that feeling of telling the story and feeling like you get there. I mean, it looked really cold. There was frost inside the tent, but I found it so engaging that I thought, if I was there, I'd have a tent and I'd be up that mountain myself.
And you would be on your own, because wild camping is possibly my least favourite thing in the world. I mean, I absolutely hate it, and I can still appreciate what Murray was doing, and I do envy anybody that can actually do that and he actually enjoys it, because as a landscape photographer, I do love the outdoors. I just don't like sleeping in it. No,
that's fair enough. I can do it for a night. One night's my limit. I don't mind not having a shower in the morning and missing out on a cooked breakfast, but I don't think I could do it any more than a night. But obviously the other thing is, Murray's doing his storytelling about his walking experience, but his photography's right up there. I mean, he captures some stunning shots. He got, as with any landscape photography, there's always a bit of luck with the weather, but you got some clear skies, and some of the astro shots and the stars over Glencoe were just absolutely stunning. That Starfield.
It's a really, really good example of one of the things that you and I both know, and that is that in order to take great pictures, you've got to get yourself in the right place at the right time. And what Murray's doing is making the effort to get to the top of these mountains. He's putting the effort in to camp out overnight. It was pretty windy. It did look freezing cold. And he's putting that effort in, and you're going to get rewards from doing that. That is not the level that I'm prepared to go to.
What's wrong with you, Chris?
Because I'm a bit soft. Murray's obviously a much harder character than I am. But another thing I noticed about the video, and again, it was very much like the first video that we were talking about by Nick, it wasn't a video about photography as such, it was more of a video about a photographer. And telling their story and how what they enjoy and what they like, and I find that quite refreshing at the minute.
Yeah, and he's not making a big deal of it. Photographers like to, especially content creators, like to kind of ham it up to the camera when things are difficult. Oh, it's really difficult, and this is really cold, and I've trekked miles. He doesn't do that. He just says, "Oh, this is what happened." He's not using the struggle or the challenges to get to these locations and the walking as a means to enhance the story. The storytelling itself. It supports itself.
So I think I'll definitely be checking out much more of Murray's videos in future. I look forward to seeing what he gets up to in future. Now, if Murray's a photographer that I haven't watched before, the next video is going to be by somebody that I've watched a lot, and you've watched a lot, and I'm guessing everybody that's watching this has watched a lot, and of course that's Thomas Heaton. So Tom's latest video was all about his wish list and what he's going to do when lockdown is all over. I guess
it's something we've all been thinking about, isn't it? What we're going to do once we get out of lockdown.
That's right, and so the format of this series going forward, this is, we are going to have guests on. So this is one that we've chosen together, isn't it, to sort of fill the space. Yeah, absolutely. So there's quite a lot to talk about in this video. He raised quite a lot of points. His wish list is all about things he wants to do and places he wants to go, and new gear as well. So there's some gear stuff to talk about,
including the van.
The van, yeah. So were you surprised at that?
Yeah, I'm not particularly surprised. There's certainly not the reasons he's given it. It looks like a very nice van, always has done. But you know what we're all like. We get something new, even with a new camera. You kind of bubble wrap it, don't you? And you try not to damage it too much. And I know from driving around even the roads of Devon and some of the roads up in Scotland, you wouldn't take a really nice vehicle up them. I mean. When I got a car and I drive it around the Devon, I kind of, it scratches the side. That's what happens. It's just the kind of thing that you have to live with. But he wants to have a vehicle, I guess, that's more appropriate for the places that he's going to go. And if you've got something really nice, you don't want to necessarily trash it, even though it's kind of a utility and a bit of equipment for his photography. So no, I don't particularly blame him for wanting to get something a bit more rugged. I think it was I can't remember the name of the vehicle that he talked about, but it's one that he has, I guess, kind of dreamed of owning.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. It was a kind of much more rugged, older kind of car. A car that he's kind of, or van, I suppose, that he's coveted since he was younger.
Yeah, Suzuki, I think. I can't remember.
I can't remember. It was Mitsubishi or something like that, I think it was.
Yeah, Mitsubishi. It could have been a Mitsubishi, actually, yeah.
And I personally was actually quite surprised, because I think that, if you spend as much time in the field as he does, then you probably want to afford yourself as many home comforts as you possibly can. But so for me, that was a bit of a surprise. I do understand his reasonings. I really do. So we'll just.
But someone will pick it up. He'll stick it on eBay. I mean, he's already got a great advertising platform in his own channel. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people with a bit of spare wonga that'll be willing to pick up the old ex Thomas Heaton mobile.
Exactly. Which YouTuber do you think is going to put out a video? I bought Heaton's van.
I
know who it won't be. It won't be me.
It won't be me or you. I don't think we've got the cash, because I don't think that those things aren't cheap. I remember watching his first video where he got maybe the idea of really starting the camper van. I think Volkswagen lent him one of their I can't remember the name of the band, but these were 60, 70 grand.
Absolutely, yeah. All the whistles and bells, all mod cons. And the video did that. Was he in Scotland for that?
He was in Scotland for that, wasn't he? He shot out. He actually put the thing out over the van. And he took some photographs from the comfort of his van. It was absolutely fantastic. It's something that really appeals to me. If I had the money and had the time as well to drive it somewhere, that would be absolutely perfect. I can just imagine driving to some spot, parking up, and being right there ready to go, instead of having an hour and a half drive and getting up an hour before. It just, because it's like we get up at some silly o'clock hours in the morning, and just being at a location ready to go would be absolutely ideal. But on more, I guess, almost more realistic priced items, he was talking about perhaps some potential new camera choices. I think it was the much rumoured Canon. Is it R5? Is that something you might consider?
So there's probably not, and for kind of one main reason, and that's because obviously I'm now 6-7 months into my first year as a full-time photographer, and the money is not rolling in. But I mean, again, it's this is something that I've talked about a lot, and my camera is absolutely fine for what I do, and so upgrading at the minute doesn't seem particularly important to me. And you know me, mate, I'm just not really that interested in gear. And
no, not too much of a gearhead.
I'm not really, and I do find it all a little bit. Sometimes I do find it a bit boring, actually. And I know gear is important. but I think there are other things. And the thing about the R5, and I think this is the point that Tom made, is that the only thing we really know about it at the moment are the video specs.
Yeah.
And as a video creator, the video specs look fantastic, and there's so much potential that you can do with 8K video. Particularly if you're doing a lot of the kind of talking head videos that we've been forced to do recently, but even out in the field, with 8K, if you're putting out in 1080p as I do, what have you got? How many different ways of framing
angles?
that?
Yeah,
I mean, it's,
yeah. And it is a specialised tool at 8K, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But the big problem that I've got with that is that, and I think a lot of photographers will find, is having that size of file. I don't think I'd be able to edit that on my laptop as it is now. So that would be an additional expense.
Well, I mean, this probably kind of leads us on to one of the other topics you discussed on the video, and that's storage and backup. I mean, are you quite good with backup?
Do you know what? What I was doing yesterday was actually finally sorting out my backup for the finally sorting it. I come from an IT background. You still work in IT, don't you?
Yeah.
And some of this actually can be quite confusing, even for us. But I have actually finally sorted out my backup plan. So I use a cloud storage solution. So I back up all my files onto external USB drives, and then those all get backed up to the cloud. And then I have a separate cloud solution that is backing up my laptop in real time.
Oh, good stuff.
So that's quite a cost-effective way of doing it. And I shopped around, and I use for the majority of my backup, which includes my videos, I use something called Wasabi, which is there's a fairly cost-effective way of doing it. But for my real-time backup of my laptop, I'm actually using Google Drive, right. And I bought 100 gig for something like £1.60 a month.
No, that's all right. It's good value, isn't it?
That's incredible. So anyway, we digress. But I've finally sorted mine out.
Well, I think lockdown and the fact that Tom raises this point in the video, it's probably a good time for us all to consider what we're doing with our storage and what we're doing with backup as well, because backup is critically important. I mean, I've, touch wood, never really had to recover anything, but I am glad I've got copies of it everywhere, to be honest.
But you've worked in IT for 25 years?
25 years.
Something like that.
So I'd be ashamed if I lost data because I hadn't backed it up.
Absolutely.
I'd be quite embarrassed.
But, I mean, you also kind of work in the kind of network field as well, don't you? So you know all about how often hard disks fail and.
Yeah, I mean, I work in infrastructure, so I know all about disks and RAID and backup.
Yeah.
But I guess moving on from the boring disks things, one of the other things he talked about was long distance walking as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did. Now, this was the one thing that I was really, really interested in, and the reason for that is that I've never met Tom.
I haven't either, no.
No, but he is somebody who I have the most utmost respect for, and I would love to meet him. And the thing is, he was talking about the walk. He was talking about was the coast to coast. Now, if you don't know, the coast to coast walk is a walk that was put together by the famous hill walker Alfred Wainwright, and it runs from St Bees Head on the west coast in Cumbria through to Robin Hood Bay on the east coast, and it runs through my village. And so if Tom does do the coast to coast, I shall be keeping an eye out for him.
That sounds a bit stalky.
It does sound a little bit stalky.
Yeah, a bit creepy, that, mate.
It does sound a little bit.
Hide in the bush with my binoculars.
I probably won't go that far. I will keep an eye out. I'll
be warning. I'm going to send him a message. I mean, when he talked about those long distance walks, it took me back about 12, 14 years when I did the West Highland Way, and I did do some photography along the way, but my God, my photography wasn't anywhere near the standard as it was now. But I'd love to go and do that again, but it's never going to happen. I don't have a spare week really to go and do the West Highland Way again. But it's an absolutely fantastic walk, and it made me think, maybe not the West Highland Way, it's about 100 miles, and maybe an overnight walk somewhere might be in order. So maybe we'll do something, I know you don't like camping.
Well, no, so this is the great thing about the coast to coast is I believe that you can do it so that you're staying in pubs. And I don't like wild camping, but I do like pubs.
But when I did the West Highland Way, I didn't do camping either. I stayed in hotels and bed and breakfast, and I had a bag carrying service. The van took your rucksack from one accommodation to the other. So it's I'm not suggesting we do camping, but it kind of, again, getting a little bit of inspiration from watching other people's videos. Particularly, this is something you can really look forward to coming out of lockdown. Is maybe I'll organise a bit of a big adventure, whether it's a long distance walk or to travel somewhere.
Yeah. So what have you got? Have you got anything on your wish list then for when this is all over?
No, I haven't really thought about it. I'm only taking a couple of weeks at a time, really. I mean, I just want to get out and take photographs. I haven't got any big plans. I know we had a couple of collaborations that we were going to work on that we've had to postpone. But
that's right.
No, I'm not going to set any plans until I know I can actually get out. What about yourself?
I mean, for me, I think the important thing when we do start coming out is that I'm going to try and ease myself into this much more gently. I'm not going to start running around and going crazy. I do want to do a lot more photography actually in my local area, and I think that's probably what I'll do once lockdown restrictions have been eased and we can actually get out again and film. Because although technically we can still film, you and I have discussed this, and right at the beginning, I certainly felt that it wasn't the socially responsible thing to be doing. We have a responsibility to set an example, whether we like it or not. And so I haven't done any filming. So I'm going to ease myself back into it and do some stuff locally. But yeah, there's not going to be any new gear or a new van or anything like that. But lockdown has fundamentally changed my photography. I've been doing a lot of handheld. I've been doing a lot of black and white, and so there's going to be some changes to my approach, I think, when I get back out there. I'm not going to change everything completely. That would be silly. But I do want to try and do a few things a little bit more differently and try some different approaches to photography. Definitely more walking though, but perhaps not 5-day treks with tents. Fair enough.
Right, well, I think that covers the 3 videos, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll put if you haven't seen any of these videos, we'll put some links in the description below.
Yeah, if you have seen these 3 videos and you've got any comments to make, do drop a comment below.
Excellent. So I guess that's us done for the pilot episode. I guess we do want to hear your feedback. How does the format work? If you've got any suggestions for other videos, just put all your questions and comments in the video description and comment section below. Yep,
and if you enjoyed this and you enjoyed this format, let us know. Would you like to see more of this? Would you, if we made more of these, would you actually watch it?
Yeah, it would be nice. If we do make them, people do watch them. So yeah, we do really appreciate your support. I know there's a lot of content out there at the moment, but hopefully this is something a little bit different, something you can get behind. So yeah, please do let us know your thoughts.
So I never really know how to end these things, mate. So I'm just going to say goodbye, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.
Yeah, goodbye from the Exeter studio. See you soon, Chris.
See you, mate.